Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be chatting a little bit about the differences between editing photos on your desktop versus editing on your iPad. Some of the main reasons on why I prefer using the desktop for my professional work is that there are more tools that I can go and use. I'm finding that I don't need to use Photoshop as much as I did before. These AI programs are amazing. One of the things that I do is I like to use my brushes on absolutely everything. And back in the day, which wasn't that long ago, prior to having these AI select tools, I preferred being able to manually go and dodge and burn on my iPad because there was no other option. But now the AI programs on the desktop are so good that I barely have to go and correct some of the automatic AI selections that they do. I can easily go and select their hair, their eye. Let's just go and see the differences right now. Okay, so we've saved a backup on the desktop of the full raw version, and now it's time to pre-cull the photos into Lightroom. So the first thing that I'm going to go ahead and do and uncheck all of the photos because we don't want to bring them all in. I want to go and see all the photos photo by photo and make sure there's not photos that are out of focus or ones that are just not going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly do this part and I won't make you guys watch all of this. Okay, so now that we have picked the photos that are good, we are going to make sure that this is synced into the cloud, and this way we can go and access the photos on the iPad and the iPhone. These are the photos that are in the queue. So we select everything, make a collection, and we're going to bring them in. And super easy, there is the folder. So here we are with the original. And the first thing that I like to go and do is I like to go and play with the tone curve. Now, I always do an S curve. So you're gonna see here is the tone curve, and it's an S curve. This here is a very popular tone curve to go and do. You basically go and bring down the shadows just a little bit more, and it's a natural way of having some contrast without really adding any contrast. So as you can see on the screen here, the tone curve is just kind of making her skin a little bit too orangey. I do like the contrast on her hair and how other things are looking, but it's just too contrasted right now. So what I'm going to do to go and fix that is there's this adjust the tone curve button here, and I like to go and play with that. So I'll bring down the highlights just a touch. I might even bring up the darks just a little bit. But I'll basically do a little bit of a backward C, and right away you can go and see that that has made a huge improvement on the skin tone. So here is a before, right? That is the original photo. This is with the tone curve, and then this is just with playing with some of those tone curves a little bit. This is why I say that this is so huge, being able to have this extra capability, because you can really go and make sure that your skin tones are on point. Obviously the photo is not looking quite where I want it to be yet, so I'm gonna play with the luminance slider over here. And obviously she has a little bit more oranges in her skin tone, so we're just gonna go and bring that down just a little bit because there are quite a bit of highlights, you know, on the face, on the cheek, on the lips, that we just want to bring down just a hair. And then I'm just going to bring down that orange just a smidgen, and then with the hue I'm just going to kind of change the color of it just slightly so that it's looking a little bit more like skin. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now that I've got that going, I'm going to start playing with these sliders out here. So I'm going to bring up the shadows just a hair, and I'm going to leave things pretty much as is. Now, obviously we're kind of a little bit too contrasted on our hair. So one of the awesome things about this AI feature is that you can select all these different things on the person. I used to go and do dodging and burning by either just using like the brush and the mouse on the desktop, or this is why I love the iPad and the Magic Pencil, or the pencil. There's so many different this, that, whatever. This is why I would use the Apple Pencil so that I can hand select certain things. So we're just gonna go and start with her hair here, and we're gonna create a mask. And as you can see, the AI does a great job of selecting the hair. And I'm just gonna bring it up just a little bit. There we go. And I'm gonna bring up the shadows just a bit. I am gonna bring down the contrast just because it was a little bit much, and we don't want to lose the color of her hair. She is brunette, but she doesn't have a lot of red in her hair, and it's looking a little bit red, so I'm just going to add a little bit more blue so that it looked a little bit more true to tone. That's looking pretty good. With any type of editing, you don't want to go overly crazy when you edit, otherwise it'll just look too harsh. Her clothing, I like to go and see if we're losing any details. So there is a shortcut key of J. So obviously you don't want to see this like too heavy. So this is just an exaggeration. Otherwise it's just gonna look like a black chunk on there, and we don't want that. We want to have some detail. A little bit of the blue peaking is okay, but we don't want too much. So I would probably maybe bring this up to just a little bit. A little bit more in the blacks. You don't want to do too much on the slider, otherwise it's going to start to change things on her face as well. So a way that you can go and play with that is the mask tool on here. So we're going to take her clothing and we're going to go ahead and just give it a little bit more light, and then that way we can start to see a little bit more separation between her clothing. It is a little bit black in there yet, but we're not going to actually worry about that because it doesn't look bad. The next thing that I like to go and do is I like to make her eyes pop. So we are going to do that by selecting the pupils in her eyes, her irises and pupils there. So you'll see that the mask does a great job of doing that, and we're just going to bring that up just a hair. We're going to give it a little bit of contrast, just a little bit of saturation, and then we're going to give it a little bit of texture and clarity. And maybe just a little bit. We don't want to do it too much, otherwise she could, it just won't look tasteful. So I would say that that is a good way. Again, I'm just going to kind of play a little bit here. Just give it a little bit of clarity. And then with the vibrance and the saturation, I don't really think that I need too much. Actually, I tend to bring down my vibrance because this just goes to help with like skin tones and stuff. So honestly, I am pretty happy with how the skin tone is looking. So we're going to go ahead and bring this into Photoshop. There we go. So what you're going to like to do, first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to select a duplicate layer. And you're going to want to say that this is the skin layer. So what I like to do is the first thing that I'm going to do is get rid of some of these hot spots. Now there's a few different ways to do it. You can do it with this lasso tool, and then you can just fill in the area. Although if you go too much, it takes too much, but as you can see, it starts to kind of soften up the hot spots while still keeping some of the texture on her skin. Now, if it doesn't look 100% natural just yet, like these little, like I said, these little spots, don't worry. This is just a quick little, just do it, and I'll show you what I do in the end. So I go and I go, and you don't want to go too big of an area, otherwise you might start to get like her eyebrows might get shown in there as like the fill. Just gonna go like this. So before y'all start judging me super hardcore, I'm just gonna see if I can kind of fix that spot on her skin. Oh, goodies. Okay. So just so that it looks a little bit more natural, we're not gonna keep that opacity at 100% because it's gonna start to look a little bit like blotchy, right? So I normally like to bring that down to about 75% because it is still kind of nice to see a little bit of the highlight, but not as bold as it was. And then what I like to do is I like to go and merge that layer because that is now my new layer. The next thing that I'm going to go and do is I'm going to do a copy of, let's say, flyaway hairs. So here, fly away. Now on this layer, I'm going to start fixing any flyaway hairs that we see. And we're going to really zoom in on this, and I'm just going to use the healing clone tool. There we go. We'll just fix a couple of little extra baby hairs here. And then there's a few little baby hairs on here. There's a couple different ways to get rid of the baby hairs, but we're just going to fix that for now. There we go. I think I am going to go and trim up just a little bit over here, just a little bit more. There we go. Perfect. Sometimes we can get carried away when it comes to Photoshop, and I feel like I tend to do that quite a bit. Great. Okay, so now we're gonna go and make that a new layer. This is just how I go and do it. Don't judge me how I do it. But every time that I'm happy with how I do the edits, I like to merge it and I make another layer, just because if there's anything that you screw up, you can always you can only go back so far in your history to fix things. And that's why it's always good to go and do a duplicate layer, because like this flyaway layer, I'm actually going to rename that, and I'm going to say this is the I'm gonna call this final copy, or you can you can go and say like this is the main layer. Okay, so anything that we do on final skin, if we have to delete it, it's not going to affect this one because we don't want to do so much work and then have to go back. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to airbrush her just a pinch. She doesn't really need it. This model is absolutely perfect and absolutely stunning, but we're just going to go and bring down this opacity just a little bit, maybe to like about 50%. And I'm gonna smooth that out. There we go. So I'm just kind of going over her chest area here. There we go, and a little bit on her neck. And there we go, a little bit on her neck, and I don't want to really affect how the shadow goes on there. Obviously this is looking a little bit too much, but like I said, this is not our final destination. We are going to lower this opacity on this layer just a hair, because it doesn't really need too much, but I mean that's before, and even doing like at 30%, that's an after. It's just a little bit. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think what I'm also going to actually do really quickly after looking at the photo is I'm just going to kind of go over on the lips here with a brush just to kind of match this lip area. where it was highlighted, and it's just a hair, not anything too overly crazy. And I'm gonna do the same with her eyebrows. There we go. And there we go. I am going to merge that and I'm going to save it. So that would be a final product there. Let's see if we can go and see a before and after on here. That's a nice before and after. There again is the reference photo. You can see that there's a little bit more detailing in the clothing. We've got rid of some of the hot spots on there. It's very minimal, but that is how I would edit on the desktop. And now we're just gonna show you how to re-edit this on the iPad. Here's to hoping that the Adobe version on the iPad is gonna quickly catch up, because this would be a game changer for the iPad. This is like the awkward part. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you like what you're seeing here. Well, that was it for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye!